If you're a Texas public school teacher and you're trying to differentiate what's the difference between TRS and ORP for my retirement options, well, this video is for you. First off, I should say that you can reference information from the Texas Coordinating Board. They have a great packet that you can download from their website that's called TRS versus ORP. So that's a great source of information. But if you want kind of a Cliff's Notes plain English version, this video is for you. TRS, or the Teachers Retirement System, is a defined benefit program, whereas ORP, or the Optional Retirement Program, is a defined contribution plan. You see the difference in those two words? So it's like it sounds. A defined benefit program, like TRS, means that the benefit, what you get out of it at the end, is defined. You know what that will be. It's based on a formula that involves years of service, your tier in the program, and your average highest annual salaries. We'll get into that in a second. But again, it's a formula that will then define your benefit, what you get out of it in the end. In contrast, ORP is a defined contribution program. That means that what you put in is defined as you are working, but what you get out of it is variable. So it's a lot like a 401k, if you're familiar with that concept. You put in a percentage or a dollar amount that is defined, you know what that will be, but what you get out of it in the end is based on what you invest in and how those investments perform. Depending on the market environment, people either tend to gravitate towards TRS when the stock market is a little bit shaky, or I've seen them gravitate towards ORP when the stock market is going gangbusters. I don't think market or economic activity at the time you're making this decision should be a deciding factor. You need to think about some different questions about how the system operates rather than what the current environment is, because that's going to change over the course of your career. Two questions really to ask when you are considering TRS or ORP. First is, do you already have time in a defined benefit program like TRS or maybe a similar pension plan from a different state? If you do, you want to look at how much time you already have in that program. You may want to stay in there because those years will add up. Even occasionally, if it's from a different state, you can add it to the Texas program. The years will add up over time and might mean that you will get a good sized benefit. So you don't probably want to throw that away if you already have time in a defined benefit program. In contrast, a question is, do you plan to stay in this career in higher education for most of your career? You might not know, or you might think, well, I could jump around to Tennessee, California, I've got relatives in Ohio. You know, if you're going to be moving around different states, then you might lean more towards the ORP program. ORP is portable. It's why it was created. The vesting in ORP is only 1 year and 1 day. So that means as long as you've been in the program 1 year and 1 day, you have access to all the employer contributions that have gone in on your behalf, as well as your own money. Now, you shouldn't cash it out, I'm not saying that, but it is meant to be portable, that if you don't stay at that particular job or school forever, you could possibly take it around, or you have a lot more options and flexibility with ORP. Those are two big differences between the two programs to help you decide. Another differentiating factor is control. With the TRS program, guess what? It is invested, but not by you. TRS, the state system, decides how to invest the funds in the program in order to make money so that they can pay back the retirees that they are funding. So you never see the investments in TRS. Like I said, it's a defined benefit program. You know what's going to come to you afterwards. Some people don't really like that. Some people would rather control the investments in their retirement account. That is ORP. You can control what you invest in. It's not every type of investment is permitted in ORP because there are some restrictions. For example, you can't put real estate in an ORP account. You could do real estate funds, but not like a house or a rental. So there are a few restrictions, but mostly you have control over your investments in ORP, whereas you don't in TRS. Some people like that, some people don't. That's another big difference between the two programs. I mentioned vesting. That's when you have access to the employer contributions that your employer has been putting in on your behalf. They aren't automatically yours from day one. In ORP, after the account has been open and funded for 1 year and 1 day is when those employer contributions basically become yours from that day forward. In TRS, it's a little longer since it's defined benefits, a different type of calculation, so they want you to be in it a bit longer. So it'll be 5 years in TRS, participating in that program, until you would have access to your employer contributions. Up to that point, you would only have access to your own money that you've put in. Now, the amount of contributions in these programs is also an interesting difference. And again, online, you could download a history of TRS and ORP contributions, which is rather interesting, especially if you're a nerd like me. In either program, what goes in is a combination of your money from your paycheck that the school is required to withhold and what the employer is required to match. Both of these numbers are set by the state legislature, so they could change anytime if the legislature decides to change the law, and they're not something that you control. You don't specify the percentage of salary that goes into these programs. It's just automatic, and your HR department just does it, depending which program you choose. So an interesting difference is with ORP, you contribute 6.65 of your paycheck, and your employer matches 6%, and it's been that way for decades. Now, some employers can choose to contribute more than the required 6% if they want. That usually requires a vote of the board of directors for the college or the school program. So lots of times you don't see this, but occasionally you do. So again, it's the 6.65 and 6 or a little bit more that goes into the ORP program, and it's been that way for a very long time. The TRS program also has a defined amount that goes in, but it has changed quite a bit over the years. At one point, it was the same as ORP, the 6.65, because they wanted the two programs to be equal. But in more recent years, they've had to increase the amount that both you and the employer put into this program. Why? Well, it's a little bit like Social Security. They have a lot of retirees now who are depending on the payouts. That means the people who are working need to put in more money to make the program continue to be viable. So right now, as of 2025, 8.25% of your paycheck goes into the TRS program, and the employer matches 8.25 as well. Again, that shouldn't be a deciding factor for which program you choose. It's just something that's good to know. Finally, let's talk about withdrawals when you get to retirement, or actually if you just leave the system or the workforce and are looking at your withdrawal options. Obviously, it's going to vary a lot based on whether you are retirement age or whether you are under retirement age. Let's talk about TRS first. As we mentioned, TRS is a defined benefit. So first, you got to pass that vesting, which is 5 years, and you must permanently terminate all employment from TRS covered employers. So that means that if you haven't decided to retire, but you want to take a withdrawal from the TRS system, you better be really serious about it, that you know you're not going to re-enter the workforce or work for another TRS covered employer, because a withdrawal is going to basically clean that out, and you're going to start over. Also, in that case, you have to withdraw your entire balance. You don't have a choice to just take a little bit out of TRS. You have to withdraw the entire thing if you have terminated employment with all TRS employers. Now, those rules are different if you are retiring, and for that, I would refer you to your TRS website and the TRS personnel, because they're going to look at your specific record and be able to advise you on what kind of benefit you would have. The TRS system's a little bit like Social Security. When you are going for Social Security, you want to talk to a Social Security representative to get a clear idea on your record, not just kind of a general rule of thumb of what you would get out of this defined benefit program. Now let's talk about withdrawals from ORP. ORP is pretty darn strict too. It is more flexible as a program, but when it comes to withdrawals, there are only the big four that would allow you to withdraw money from your ORP retirement account. Those would be retirement, disability that forces you to retire, separation from service, meaning that you're not working for that employer anymore, or death. Those are the four reasons that you could withdraw from ORP. Please note, even though ORP is a little bit like a 401k, there is no such thing as a loan provision. In that way, both TRS and ORP are the same. You can't get money out unless you have one of these qualifying circumstances to take money out of that program. Really, they're trying to protect you from robbing from your future self. This is just an overview of a few of the main differences between these two programs. I encourage you to ask your HR department, look at that TRS versus ORP packet from the Texas Coordinating Board, and also talk to others who are in the two programs about what they have experienced. The most important thing to keep in mind, though, is that you need to make a decision based on your own financial situation and your goals and life circumstances. Remember, this is an irrevocable decision. Once you choose one of these two programs, you're probably going to be required to stay in that program for the rest of your career in Texas. So it's very important. If you have any other questions, like I said, ask your HR department. You could also reach out to me. I'm Laura Redfern. We're with Shadowridge Asset Management, and we've handled these types of accounts for over 20 years. So it's my pleasure and honor to help teachers and staff make these types of really important decisions. I hope this was helpful.